Okay, so first of all, just as a bit of an introduction to who we are at Edge. So we're based in the northeast of England, but we work across, well, globally now, working on innovation and design thinking projects with local businesses, with research institutions, with large public authorities, particularly with the NHS, and with multinational clients across the world in various industries. And our work is all around how we can drive innovation, particularly through ways of linking up organizations that wouldn't otherwise work together, especially effectively. So it's about what we can do to get different voices onto innovation challenges and get more collaboration happening around innovation, whether that's about creating new connections between organizations who are looking to innovate and their clients through design innovation, looking at lean innovation where you're testing things with markets as quickly as possible rather than just launching something and hoping it will work. Or if it's through open innovation where we're connecting bigger and smaller organizations to work together for mutual benefit. So it's all around those boundaries between organizations. And that's how we got involved in this project as well. And the Tees Valley Innovation Challenge is really about that. It's about how we connect organizations to innovate together, to run collaborative projects. And we've been partnering with Tees Valley Combined Authority on the development of that program. I'm sure most of you will know about TVCA, but for those that don't, it's the combined authority responsible for the area covering Redcar and Cleveland, Darlington, Hartlepool, Stockton-on-Tees, and Middlesbrough. And it has a statutory role around trying to secure investment into the area, creating new jobs within businesses and authorities in the area, and ultimately transforming Tees Valley for the benefit of its population. And that has all kinds of aspects within it, as you'd expect. So business growth, transport, public service delivery, and as we said before, attracting investment into key places in the region. So TVCA have, as part of that, innovation is a big part of what they want to achieve and supporting those objectives. And they were able to secure a significant amount of funding through UK Share Prosperity Fund, which is UK government's support funding for regional economic growth. And you can see the split of that in terms of the headline figures. If you want to go into any of the detail of this, it's all listed on TVCA's website. So there's £13 million going into the supporting local business theme, which this work that we're doing and talking about today sits within. And we have been partnering with the authority and with Health Innovation Northeast and North Cumbria on the Tees Valley Innovation Challenge. The Innovation Challenge is about trying to strengthen maturity in local businesses so that they can launch new innovation projects and achieve growth as a result. We provide tailored support to innovative businesses within the local area. And ultimately, that's about unlocking that growth potential that we think is there. We do that through one-to-one advice with small and medium-sized businesses and social enterprises. We do it through training and building capacity within those organizations. We're doing it through the Innovation Challenge work, which we're talking about today. And we're talking about connecting organizations and promoting the area and showcasing some of the clever stuff that's going on here. A lot of what we're doing is really aimed at small and medium-sized businesses and social enterprises, by which we're defining that as being under 250 employees and less than £50 million turnover. But it also means linking into larger organizations and public authorities in the delivery of what we do. And we're doing that through expert support from our team around key local sectors, which we'll talk about in a moment, and through our partnership with Health Innovation North East North Cumbria in terms of work with NHS and healthcare challenges. We're running 10 innovation challenges across 7 key themes, and we've got some grant funding and obviously that support provision in helping to ensure that all those objectives are met through the programme. There's 4 key activities within that which I've mentioned. So in innovation challenges, we're looking to work with 10 challenges, as I said, and with 30 small and medium-sized organizations altogether. We've got the one-to-one support bit, which is around businesses who've got their own innovation concepts that they want to develop, and we're helping to get them to market, de-risk them. We've got the innovation training work that I mentioned, and there will be a large-scale innovation showcase in March where we're inviting local innovative organizations to promote their products and services and gain access to potentially new markets, new customers, new collaborators, and investors. But we're talking today about innovation challenges, and the idea of that is that there are locally and nationally big organizations who have areas that they really would like to innovate within. They have challenges that they're facing, and they can't buy the solution to those challenges off the shelf. There isn't something that really fits the needs that they've got. At the same time, there are really clever ideas within smaller organizations, businesses and social enterprises that might be solutions to those challenges. So what we're looking to do is create mechanisms to connect those big organizations with routes into big markets to small organizations with clever ideas but don't necessarily have access to those markets. And by facilitating the conversations between those, we think we can generate new partnerships. We can ensure that Tees Valley businesses get access to really big opportunities that can help them to grow. From the challenge holder, the big organization's point of view, they get a solution to an issue that they didn't otherwise have the answer to, and they get it from within the local supply chain rather than having to search for it globally, nationally, and potentially overlooking some of the opportunities that are more local. That's not easy. So a business with 10 people who's tends to function in a very different way to an organization with 50,000 people. And that culture, the difference in approach to things, the nimbleness that the smaller organizations can bring is really helpful, but we have to do a bit of that translation in between to make things work. And that's where Edge sits in. That's exactly what we're looking to do. The end of that, the end process then is to get to new products, new services, new processes, which the small organizations can sell into big markets through the big challenge holders, but also can sell to other organizations. They're not limited to one customer. And we focused on 7 themes. The one we're talking about a couple today, but really it's around net zero and decarbonisation. We've also launched themes around digital innovation. There are 2 challenges around healthcare coming up in the next 7 days. We've launched one around social enterprise and transport, around community transport. We're working with professional services organizations, and we're doing a significant amount of work with creative industries, including a challenge with Middlesbrough Football Club that's just been launched this week. And if you're interested in those other challenges, they're also available on the web link that I'll share at the end. So in terms of how it works with innovation challenges, the process involves identification of the challenges, which is what we're doing and publishing one of them today. We then invite expressions of interest from small and medium-sized enterprises. We'll screen those and select 3 per challenge on average, who we think is worth progressing further conversations with. Those then go into a little bit of development work. They get a little bit of funding, no illusions as to how far we can get with £1,000 per business, but it's hopefully enough to justify a couple of days' work to further scope out the solution to the challenge. And then those SMEs pitch back to the challenge holder, the big organization, and then one of those per challenge is awarded a little bit more grant funding, more support, works very closely with the challenge holder in the development of their solution, with the aim that we get to something that either is ready to go, is a solution that's ready to launch, or potentially is something that needs further investment, external from the challenge holder, from the SME, or from private funding. So this process has a couple of stages, and I just want to emphasize that the first stage, the expression of interest stage, is meant to be really, really light touch. We're not asking you to solve a problem before you even get involved. We're not even necessarily asking you to solve the problem at the first stage, because we recognize as a fairly light touch intervention. But what we'd like to do is use these processes to screen out the right partners to work with the challenge holders that we're engaged with. But I know there's a lot on this slide, but I just want to say it really is a simple process in terms of getting involved. And the challenge we're talking about today is with Lianhetech Europe and the Lianhetech Seal Sands site. So really pleased to welcome Paul Ladislaus, who's Manufacturing Technology Manager on the site locally, to talk through that challenge and what we're looking for. So over to you, Paul.
Great, thank you for that, Simon, and thank you everyone for taking the time to engage with the challenge today. And from our site's point of view, we really appreciate everyone making the time and effort to sit in on this call. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about our company and a little bit about the challenge that we're looking to see if we could work with companies on Teesside to help us out with. So if we could go on to the next slide, please. So our company, we are a European contract manufacturer of high quality fine chemicals. And we work in a number of fields ranging from crop protection to pharmaceuticals to performance chemicals. And the key points are that we have been around for quite a while. We've got about 40 years plus experience of handling a range of hazardous materials and reactions. And that's one of the reasons why we work with such a wide range of customers. It's a great environment actually to be a technologist, and we're doing lots of hands-on chemistry and chemical engineering. But also that's underpinned by operational expertise and also an environmental permit. So it allows us to interface with the environmental authority for some of our materials leaving the site. And also we are ISO qualified, and also we act to current good manufacturing practices, which is important for some of the work we do in the pharmaceutical sector. So if we could go into the next slide, please. Yeah, so like I say, the site's been around for about 40 years, founded in the Northeast up in Peterlee initially, but then we moved over to Seal Sands on Teesside in '84. And we've been owned by a range of companies, both in the UK and then Degussa Evonik. And then there was a management buyout where we were under private ownership. Then we were acquired by another capital company, and currently we're owned by Lianhetech. They're a Chinese organization, but we're very much an independent unit, working out of Seal Sands, servicing the European market and a range of markets around the world. And we get a lot of interest from our customers because of our range to handle a lot of interesting chemistries in a sustainable and responsible manner. So we have undergone an upgrade recently, and this brings with it some specific challenges. So if you could go into the next slide, please. Yeah, this slide just underpins a bit about what we do. So we take materials from the laboratory scale right up to the kilo, up to pilot scale, and then we've got multifunctioning workshops or production units, so we can either go generic and use some for generic batch processes, or use some for more specific reactors to make a range of products and processes. So generally batch reaction technology, very established technology, but we're also always on the lookout for new and alternative technologies and trialing alternative ways of doing things. So just because one of the key messages is just because the site's been around for about 40 years or so doesn't mean that we're absolutely not open to new ideas. It's quite the opposite. We're looking at innovative ways of changing what we do, and we're always horizon scanning for what else is out there to change how we do things. So if you could go to the next slide, please. Yeah, so this just shows the range of materials and chemistries that we're working on. And it's one of the reasons why it's a really fascinating place to work on, because we've got a range of really toxic products that we handle and a range of difficult chemistries, I think is the best way to describe it. But the site does it really well. We've got a really good development team, and we do a lot of work interfacing with the Health and Safety Executive, the Environment Agency, and other local companies and agencies, just to make sure that we do things in a safe and sustainable way. So if we could go on to the next slide, please. Yeah, so this just summarizes who we are. It's an interesting organization because we don't have our own products. We do a lot of manufacturing for third parties. And one of the key things to take away is this brings along with it some challenges where, unlike an established site where everything's the same and you're basically trying to get more out of your existing facilities, every year could be different, and we could be working on a range of different chemistries. So we're kind of a bit like a toolkit where we've got different processes that we can run to make different materials, but that brings some challenges in terms of things are always in a state of flux on site. It's all under control, but it just means that it adds that extra level of complexity in terms of looking at our emissions monitoring. So if we could go on to the next slide, please. Yeah, so this leads us onto the challenge that we're looking to solve. So if we could go on to the next one. Yeah, so this is really the crux of why we're here. So fundamentally, we're into the fine chemicals business. So we bridge the gap between the specialties and the bulk materials market. So range of chemistries that we're doing, mainly for the herbicides and the APIs, supplying a range of large pharma companies. But one of the challenges it brings is the use of organic solvents in the processing. So we do stay within our targets, but we're always looking to strive to reduce our emissions and anything that's associated with organic solvents. So from here on, I'll refer to them as VOCs. And these could be either channeled emissions from our existing abatement systems or diffuse emissions from leaking joints or anything that we're not doing as well as we should be doing for pipework control. And so what we're looking at doing is we're looking for step changes in reducing our VOC emissions. And this is where the challenge comes into it. Now, there are standard ways of doing things. We could use existing technologies, and there is a lot out there, but we're also interested in what else is out there, or different experiences or other innovative solutions or technologies alongside our existing processes. This could potentially bring procedural challenges, technical challenges, financial challenges, but also the opportunities where we're going to need to look at innovative thinking and also potentially investment. So if we could go on to the next one. Yeah, but there are some constraints. We need to retain the site's capability to produce a range of products for multiple users. It needs to be commercially viable, but we must meet current and also future VOC emissions targets. Now, we know that these are only going to go down, and that is absolutely the right thing to do. However, we need to be well placed to head these off and look at what's out there as well as what's coming up. So we're looking at working with local partners to essentially assess new and improved ways to either modify our existing abatement equipment or look at alternative technologies or new technologies and configurations. So we are open to new ideas as to what we might be able to do. So if we can go on to the next one, please. Yeah, so this basically like summarizes what we're trying to achieve. So we do know that there is a move to reduce VOC emissions, looking at reducing abatement, emissions targets, looking at alternative abatement technologies, and what we currently use or what the industry currently uses might not necessarily meet future VOC targets. One of the challenges is that we are an operating site, so we've got limited resources. So we're always on the lookout for new partnerships or collaborations for people we could work with to look at alternative technologies. And this ties in with the need to identify and assess alternative technologies, obviously being mindful of cost and resource constraints on site. But it could be a win-win outcome for everyone, not just ourselves, but the wider industries, just looking at helping to thrive and essentially doing the right thing in terms of reducing our VOC emissions. So we can go into the next one, please. Yeah, so this really looks at where we are. So the next few slides basically frame the problem, so I won't dwell on them too much, but essentially we're looking to reduce the emissions to the environment, comply with existing and future emission standard, and ensure that our site remains viable and competitive into the future. But also we want to remain as a responsible neighbour, mindful of our social and environmental roles. And ideally, an ideal outcome would be we achieve step change reductions, we remain in compliance with future legislation, maintain the site and also the wider chemicals industry on Teesside, remain closely engaged with local organisations, and we want to be seen as a global leader in the field as well by customers, competitors and regulators. So we believe this very much is a win-win approach for everyone. And next slide. Yeah, so we're looking at external perspectives really to what we're doing. So one of the things where this is really interesting is we're not just looking internally, but also externally at what the options are. And we're very much aligned, so our regulatory team and the regulators are strongly aligned with what we're trying to do. And we expect this to move further and faster in the future. But we do need to ensure continued compliance with regulatory requirements and continue strong relationships with the regulatory bodies into the future. And we do want to show leadership in the field. So that's really important to us. We want to be seen as the go-to people for this. So holistically, the issues are common to the industry. We want to do something that's good for ourselves, but also for the wider UK. And also we are a key employer in the area and we do contribute to the local economy. So we want to grow and basically do the right thing for ourselves and the local chemistry cluster, remaining competitive going forward, maintaining employment, and also doing so in a sustainable way. And yeah, if we can go on to the next one, please. Yeah, so essentially we've got 4 manufacturing buildings, we've got 5 emission points. We can provide more details to shortlisted partners. Basically, as a next step, then, if we wanted to take this forward, we would be looking to engage and potentially give interested parties a lot more information on what we're up to. So just see this very much as a putting it out there and seeing what interest we'd have from people. But the other thing we do believe is there's potentially limited options available, and we want to avoid replacing one form of VOC emissions with another, and it needs to be cost effective. But then essentially we'd want to make a step change in our VOC reductions, look at understanding the data. So it could go a number of ways. One is it could be I would say it's almost like looking at data twinning or looking at what we do and trying to do some mining of what we're doing and understanding what we're doing. It could be from that to looking at roadmaps for how we're going to reduce our emissions to actually trialing alternative equipment, either at the pilot scale, the full scale. Essentially, it's an open book we've got here. And I think that's basically the last. Oh, yeah, here we go. Yeah, so really, rather than dwell on the current risks, which I think we've spoken about, really what we're looking at is environmental benefits. That's really why we're here. Maintaining competitiveness. Obviously, we want the local SME sector to be successful. So looking at potential new market opportunities, and also position ourselves as a leader in the field, both in the UK and wider, as a responsible manufacturer. Um, Again, basically, what we're not looking for is anything that's going to redesign our core manufacturing processes. I'd say that's out of scope. So we're not going to change what we do or what we make, or limit what we can do on site. We would be interested in trialing low TRL technologies, but ideally we'd want something that's a bit more ready, in a high readiness for deployment. But having said that, we'd be going in with our eyes open, and we'd be looking for other technologies. And if we think it's worth piloting it, we would look at that. What we don't want to do is replace one form of emissions with another, or go for something that would be expensive or difficult to do. Obviously, it needs to comply with best practice. It could improve our modeling work, look at better management of waste streams, better use of existing processes. It must comply with regulatory requirements. We could look at improving our monitoring of VOCs, include new equipment or configurations, monitoring, data capture, analysis, offline data modeling. So really, it's an open book that we've got here. So we're just really interested in see what ideas the community around Teesside might have. So if we go into the next one, I think that kind of covers us. Yeah, so I'll hand over to yourself, Simon, just to go through the nuts and bolts and how we take this forward.
Thank you, Paul. So, as I said, we can pick up any questions that you have today or separately, but ultimately, as I said, this first stage is simply about finding the right partners to work with. So we're not looking for a load of detail or a massive amount of information on potential solutions. What we want to find out is who's out there, who's got the right skill set to be able to tackle some of these problems. And we'll share the link in a second to being able to put in your expressions of interest against that. Expressions of interest need to be in by 2 weeks' time, 19th of September. And then we'll be quickly reviewing those with Lianhetech and ourselves in the Edge team to identify those 3 companies that we want to be working with over the next phase. Those organizations will be notified as soon as that decision is made. And then we have a couple of months to work through a little bit more detail in terms of what their proposal is and what you would actually anticipate doing in response to this challenge. The successful organization at that pitching stage in November then receives a bit more grant funding and works much more closely with Lianhetech on the development of that solution. Our involvement in that work only runs through to March 2025, but obviously what we're looking to do is build an ongoing relationship and a partnership that can significantly outlast that period.
Okay, thanks, Simon.
Sorry, for some reason my thing decided to mute itself, so I'll try again. So yeah, there's a chance for any questions now. Obviously, as I said before, we're not going to go through anything confidential at this stage, but if there's anything you wanted to ask about the process or about the challenge that Lianhetech are describing, then here's an opportunity to do so now. I'll just drop this so I can see any questions as they come through.
Yeah, I think there's something in the chat, actually. Yeah, and in terms of a digital twin of our facilities, no, we don't have a one. It's not something I've really worked with or done before, but yeah, it'd be interesting to see how that would work and what that would mean for us.
So is there anyone else who wanted to raise any questions at this stage? What we'll do is also drop the link to the expression of interest in the chat, and then you can have a look through there. And if you had any questions outside of this you wanted to go through, or any confidential questions you wanted to raise, then do get in touch via email and we'll pick it up that way. Okay, well, if there are no other questions now, then thank you very much for your time. Look forward to seeing your submissions in response to this challenge, and seeing some interesting products and services coming out of the work that we're doing. And thanks very much, Paul, for getting involved. Look forward to working with you on this.
No worries. Thank you, everyone.
Have a good afternoon, everybody.
That's great. Thank you.